We're back to the Neil Haley show, and I'm always excited to talk to filmmakers. So I'm excited to welcome filmmaker from Clear Cut, Brian Skiba. Brian, thanks for stopping by, and let's talk about the story of how you got involved in Clear Cut. Very, very beautiful background, great setting for a movie, that's for sure. Getting to see the beautiful forest and trees, something different than other films sometimes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, Neil. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely a process where it was like, I was asked to find a action thriller script, and this one kind of spoke to me, and for those reasons, it was like, man, I grew up in the forests. I was a Boy Scout. I hiked a lot, and so to have this kind of film that was going to be mainly based in the forest was very attractive, and so I'm glad it all came together.
So were you the one, did they approach you for this film, whoever wrote the film? Or how did that go?
So initially, Corey Large, one of the producers, came to me and said, let's make a film together. I want to do an action thriller. That's kind of Corey's deal. And so I started doing a search, and I called all my usual contacts for great scripts, and I reached out to Eric Bromberg, who wrote The Second, which is the film I did with Ryan Phillippe. And and he's like, "Oh, I got this great one. It's perfect action thriller." And he sent me the script, and it wasn't written by him; it was written by Joe. But I read it and I was like, I agree. And so I sent it to Corey, and he got it covered, and the coverage came back great, and that was kind of the process. And
Absolutely. So let's talk about the premise of the film without giving it away. I think you really got to pay attention throughout as I previewed the film, because there's a lot of storylines that you could miss if you decided to go to the bathroom for a second. That's for sure. Yeah, but that's good because you kind of really have a lot of different storylines and really understanding this character, the main character. So talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. You definitely want to pause. You don't want to just walk away, if you got to use a restroom. But and that's what attracted me to it was it wasn't just a superficial kind of action film. I think a lot of these days you turn on the action films, and you think, okay, this is what I'm gonna, it's a guy trapped in a building, and there's no characters at all, kind of thing. And in this thing, it was like it was wide open, and I found there was an opportunity for a lot of symbolism, to dig in between Clive's past and the actual visuals that you're watching, and all the running, and kind of running away from his past, and seeking redemption, and things like this. And so and the way it's kind of told, to where it's it leaves you kind of guessing as to why is this guy taking a logging job when he's in his 40s. I mean,
Right.
it definitely leaves you guessing at moments. And so yeah, there's some meat on the bone, and that's what's fun about it.
And then I think Clive did a great job of, throughout the movie with the flashbacks and different things to really get people thinking, what kind of character is this kind of guy? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? It's very hard to identify that through because we got to see the story of that person, not just the before and then the after he's stuck in the forest trying to save his life. You know what I mean? So that's the thing I think that really brings it home in so many ways without giving things away, right?
Right, right. No, I mean, it really is one of those, there's lots of gray. There's lots of gray in his character, and that's what I think that's true to life with everybody, and that's what makes characters interesting. If so, I think Long Gone is the Lone Ranger. It's he's very gray.
And you learned a little bit about forestry in this as well at the beginning. If you didn't like read like what the premise of the movie was or anything before watching it, you think, oh, okay, and then it just hits you, right?
Yeah,
You get to
no.
get a little bit of a of understanding the character Alec played at the beginning, and really he kind of educated us a little bit about the Northwest in certain ways and what how dangerous this job is to
Oh
be.
yeah, no, I mean it's super dangerous. And when I first started scouting and I started meeting these guys for real, the forestry workers and the loggers, and I mean they're all missing fingers and thumbs, and they all have stories of
Oh.
guys just, either dead or handicapped forever. I mean it's for real. I mean it's a dangerous job. It's not a,
And how
you
much
know,
is that's done on a regular basis because we want to preserve our forest, right? And then it looks like
yeah.
that's where the line can be drawn and saying, well, what's fair in this type of business, right? Because we want to have these beautiful forests that are preserved in other countries that are not really in the United States.
Yeah, so this was in Canada. This was Victoria, Canada, and I asked them the exact same question. I was like, because you go to where they log, and you see big tracts of trees that are missing, and then you see right next to it a lush forest. And what I got told, I was like, man, I mean, and they're like, no, 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 no. They're like on that mountain right there. There is not an original tree. Everything here has been logged at least twice, I guess what the deal is, it takes 70 years for these trees to grow back to a point
Oh
to
my
where they can be
goodness.
logged again. And so what they do is they log, they replant, and then they allow the trees to grow, and 70 years later they log it again. And so it was kind of crazy. They actually had sections that the Canadian government, that cordoned off that were actually original, they were original trees, and then everything else was logged, and so
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very interesting process. So
Clive's character in so many ways, you know, how what a worse situation that happens to him and getting caught up in that, because again, it's survival too. That's
yeah,
the problem, right? You got to survive, and it reminds me a little bit of he was like a Rambo in some ways. So he really was an action hero in this, an action like knowing how to get through things, but not like the things that didn't make sense. He really showed how he can survive in
yeah,
certain things.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really it. And I didn't, I think Jack is a little more clumsy than I think, like a Navy SEAL would be or something like that. He's not. He's not the ultimate Boy Scout. He's not lighting fires and stuff with his knife. I think this guy is a bit of a city boy, and I kind of set that up. Like you get halfway through the film, and he has a conversation with Lucy's character, and they Lucy Martin, and he admits, I'm kind of a city guy, and so I allow that to develop, that this guy, yeah, he knows how to fight, he knows how to kind of kick butt, but he's definitely a little out of his element.
And the one villain was a character, an absolute character. Remind me who that name was, that one villain, that lived there, that was basically living in the forest.
There's Lachlan Monroe.
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
the character? Yeah, yeah, that's Lachlan. From Scary Movie. But yeah, Lachlan's a long time friend of mine, and yeah, he's the character that lives in the forest and has kind of lost his mind and spent a little too much time out in the woods.
The movie starts out, you're thinking, oh my gosh, we're watching a horror movie, and that's not it. But you know what I mean? When it starts. So that's a good starting point. What do you hope, really quickly, 30 seconds, do you want your viewers to get out of this from directing this?
I mean, some films you have an agenda, some you don't. I feel like this is kind of an homage to the 90s kind of action films where it's just fun, it's popcorn. It's not meant to be groundbreaking by any means. You're just watching a fun movie that I hope entertains and thrills, and that everybody checks it out on July 19 everywhere.
All
So
right. Available in theaters and everywhere July 19th. Uh,
right.
guys, appreciate it. Brian, best place just to go search Clear Cut, right? And that's
Right.
okay. All right. We appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All
Take
right. You're
care.
listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.